Hi friends, it's Jess with Our Bipolar. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, just a little bit about me. I have bipolar 1 and I was diagnosed 26 years ago when I was a sophomore in college. Today I want to talk about bipolar advocacy, just what it is, why I got into it, what I do, what you might want to do or not, that's fine too. So before we get into that, I'll ask you to please subscribe to the channel. I'm really trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, and thank you so much if you have already subscribed. Also, please like and comment. I would love to hear from you and hear about your journey with advocacy. Okay, so advocacy is something I haven't been doing for all that long. So I started advocacy when I was 40 years old and I'm now 45. So it's only been 5 years. It feels like a lifetime in a good way. So when I was 40, that's when I came out and became public with having bipolar. And in my case, I did that by doing a series of posts on Facebook on my birthday. So it's kind of a big coming out for me. Facebook is where I felt most comfortable at the time. Now I'm more active on Instagram, and I also did post everything on Instagram. But first I want to talk about why I decided to become a bipolar advocate. It took me a long time. It wasn't something I ever thought I would necessarily do. It was becoming stifling for me to just not even talk about having bipolar, and it's not my whole personality, of course, but it is part of me. It felt like I was keeping a secret. It felt like it was something shameful that I couldn't talk about. I couldn't talk about having bipolar with just anyone. Only like a select few people in my life knew, some close friends and family members. And I was tired of that. I really wasn't ashamed of having bipolar. I thought, it's taken me a really long time, but I am now living a good life with bipolar, and I was able to, have a job long term. I had a family, I was married. I have a daughter as well, our daughter Pearson. And I just thought, this is me. I want to talk about it. And I also want to try to help other people who have it, because I remember how I felt when I was first diagnosed. I just wish I had had someone to talk to about it, or just hear their story and not feel so alone. So this is how I got into it. I did what I always do, and I talked to my psychiatrist about it. He is someone that I completely trust and really trust his judgment. So I talked to him about, should I do this? If I am very public about having bipolar, could it possibly cause me more symptoms? And that was a possibility. I was worried that I was going to go into mania, that all this kind of attention from going public could cause symptoms. It could cause people to have a negative reaction, and it could cause people to have a positive reaction. And both of those I felt could put me into mania or depression. So what I did before I even went public, I spoke to my immediate family. So I spoke to my parents and my brother, and I told them about this idea and just how they felt about it, because I knew it would affect them as well, and I wanted their opinion, and they were all very supportive. I was a little concerned because my father is a therapist and, a local therapist. I didn't know if it could somehow affect him negatively. Maybe people wouldn't want to come to him for therapy. He was like, Jess, actually, he's like, don't do it for this reason, but this will help my therapy practice, because people are going to see that you're, doing relatively well with bipolar, and that can only help. But I realized there's a ripple effect, and that everyone who's close to me in my life could be affected in some way by me being so public. So like I said, I just started with doing advocacy work on social media. That's a great way to start. I just chose, I think I actually did have Twitter initially. I'm no longer on Twitter. I'm not a big fan of Twitter, X, I should call it. So I started Facebook and Instagram, I would just put posts there, you know, talk about my life, just all sorts of things. I think it's a great way to start, and it's sort of like a good way to ease into it if you want to do advocacy work. Following year, I started a blog. It was also called rbipolar.com. It's still out there if you want to check it out, but I no longer write blog posts. It just isn't really my thing. I mean, I think it was all right. I think I was able to put some information out there, but it was hard for me to write. I didn't really enjoy it. I think you really need to be doing things that you enjoy to stick with it long term, and just to have it be part of your life, and like a good part of your life. Don't do something that you don't really enjoy that much. So that's why I kind of stopped the blog after, I think it was a couple years. Then the same year that I started the blog, I started this YouTube channel. It was maybe a couple months later. I was just thinking, man, it's so much easier just to film a video than to write a whole blog post and have to like agonize over that. Like, I might, you know, at times be embarrassed. Like, some of the videos I've put out, especially the early ones, were pretty low quality, let's say. But I do think the message was good. And I think that's what you have to do. It's like, you just have to start. If you want to do it, you just have to start. And the early videos or the early posts, whatever you're doing, they're probably going to be a little embarrassing. Just like when you look back at those old Facebook posts you've done like 10 years ago and you're like, how did I ever write that? That's so embarrassing. Yeah, that's how we all feel. So I think putting yourself out there and just starting, if that's what you want to do, is just how everyone has to do it. So with YouTube, I started, in the beginning, I would only put out videos like maybe once a month. I didn't have any kind of schedule. It was better for me to not have a schedule and feel like I was having to adhere to something strict. I didn't want any kind of boundaries or like anything that would be more stressful in my life because, you know, I had a young daughter, I work, I have a lot of other responsibilities. So I just made it very easy for myself to do it. And it ended up being about once a month until May of this year. I started posting weekly. Now, my husband's been going through, he just had a spinal cord tumor surgery, and there's some other videos about that. I'll link down below in the description. When that happened, I did miss at least a few weeks of videos, and I just made that like, that's okay. Like, I try to post weekly. I don't always do it. It's really not a big deal. I mean, we are dealing with bipolar. We're dealing with this serious mental illness. I can't have something else that is going to be causing symptoms. I can't allow myself to be so worried and strict about, you know, this advocacy work that I'm doing, because it will just make everything worse. And I'm not willing to allow that to happen. So there's some other things I've done in terms of advocacy for bipolar. I am a presenter for NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I work with the In Our Own Voice program. So with that program, we mostly go and speak at high schools. We talk to students just about our story, about having bipolar, and kind of where we started, where we are now, how we're doing. And I love doing that. It's hard for me. I actually have performance anxiety. I'm diagnosed with it. And I usually have to take meds to go and do these performances, because otherwise, you know, it's major anxiety. I start shaking, sweating, my heart starts beating really fast. This shows you how much I do love to do it and that I still do it. Because talking to these high school students, I don't know about you, but I was diagnosed in my teens. I was 19, so I was out of high school. But if someone had come in my high school and talked to me about bipolar before I got diagnosed, I think it would have made a world of difference. Just knowing someone else out there has it, because for many years I didn't know anyone else who had bipolar. So I really, really love doing that. When I started doing it, it was during COVID, so it was only like over Zoom. And now I do it in person, and it is a little harder for me to do it in person because of the performance anxiety, but I love it so much. So I'm trying to think of other things I've done. I've done some podcasts. I've done some interviews here and there. I've also done some speaking, not with NAMI, just on my own at mental health events. I've done that a couple times. And then I've also spoke at a work conference. I work in the journal publishing industry. I did that just this summer. I spoke a little bit about having bipolar and having a career in scholarly publishing, which is what I do. It's just, it's another way to reach people, and also becoming very public. Like now people at work know, and I've talked to my work team as well about having bipolar. So there are some other things you could do, things that I don't do. You could have a podcast. I've thought of making this channel into a podcast, but right now I'm like, I'm good. I've got enough on my plate. I just can't add anything else right now. Also, I know people go and speak at much larger events. I know people that actually do this for a living, going out speaking about bipolar and about their lives at, different mental health conferences and other conferences, speaking at different company events even. This is not something I aspire to do. I like doing it sort of locally and speaking out in my community. But especially with my performance anxiety, that's not something I aspire to do. And also it requires a lot of travel. I would have to be away from my family a good bit, which I'm also not willing to do. And flying is hard for me because I do have something called disembarkment syndrome, something else that it causes dizziness from like a few months after I travel, unless I take medication, and I don't really like taking the medication, so I wouldn't want to travel that often. You have to decide if this is something you even want to think about doing. I didn't think about it for most of my time having bipolar, like 21 years. It took 21 years for me to decide to do advocacy work and go public. You may never want to do it. Maybe you do want to do it and you want to think about it. And if you are thinking about it, give it some serious thought, because it will change your life, maybe for the better, but maybe not. Maybe it will be too much. Maybe you don't want everyone to know that you have bipolar. I love people knowing. I feel like, okay, this is me. Take it or leave it. And I love being so open and like showing the real me. But not everyone likes that, and that's okay. There are challenging parts of it. Like I said, now that I'm doing YouTube every week, it is something that sort of I have hanging over my head. I have to do it. I don't have to, but I want to. And I enjoy doing it, but it does take up a lot of time. There's the filming, there's the editing, there's the posting about it on social media. So, it is a good bit of work. I really enjoy it overall. I'll continue to do it. For me, like just the overall, all the different advocacy work I do is so rewarding. It has truly changed my life. It has become a passion for me. And it's a creative outlet as well, like doing all this filming and editing. It makes me proud. It makes me proud that I feel like I have done something with this shitty hand I was dealt. I do feel like I'm helping people. I have people comment just wonderful things that my channel has helped them. I'm sure there's people out there who hate my channel too. So there's that. But I have had, students come up to me after talks and just tell me how much it helped them. And I'm just like, this is what I want, because I would have wanted that back in the day. Let me know what you think. Do you do advocacy work? Do you want to? Why or why not? It's totally fine if you think this is like a bad idea. I want to hear from you. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.